Hey, what's up, photography enthusiasts? In this ON1 Photo Raw 2025 review, I'm going to take a look at the new features, especially the generative AI tools, and see if it works. Just to give you a heads up, it does need a little bit of improvement, so let's get started. So the first thing we'll take a look at is the generative AI cropping tool, which allows you to expand the canvas or make the image larger. So I'll leave the aspect ratio on freeform and I'll make sure canvas extension is selected. I'll go to local generative AI and I'll talk about the differences between stability AI in a moment here. I will zoom out and let's say I just want to expand the sky a little bit here, and that looks good and I'll accept it. It does create a new layer image when the expansion is rendered. So if we take a look at the right side, we'll see how it looks here. I'll uncheck that. And here's what it created. So let me just check this again. So just looking at this image, the new pixels that it created, it looks pretty smooth. And the reason being is it's very uniform, or this area is like just sky. There's no more distractions such as the clouds or something like that. But let's say I want to expand the right-hand side. I'll go to Canvas Extension, select Local Gen AI, and then I'll expand it here just to give it a more of a rule of thirds crop. And I will accept this image or accept this crop. And you'll notice with the result, it's not going to look that good. And the main reason is because I selected Local Generative AI, and you can see here how bad it looks. So if I go back to the cropping tool and look at local generative AI, so what this does is it keeps your photo private and it generates the AI extension locally. So it doesn't compare your photo to thousands or millions of other photos that are in the cloud. And for that, you need to select Stability AI. But the issue with Stability AI is you do need to create a stability account on the Dream Studio website. I'll put a link on the description of the website, and you need to create an API key. And I'm not a big fan of creating another account and putting an API key and then paying for credits. So you do have to pay for the Stability AI credits. It costs pennies, but I'm just not a big fan of it. I know cloud-based generative AI is much better because I've tested it on Lightroom and Photoshop. I believe with the Lightroom subscription, you get like 1,000 credits or 1,000 generative AI photos to process. But other than that, this local generative AI, I think it's the better option, but it's only good for simple expansions of the cropping tool, not if you want to do like an extension or an expansion of, let's say, the sidewalk or the path here. The Generative Eraser AI tool is a hit or a miss, just like the Generative Crop. So this photo of this lake here, there's these people sitting on the bench that I want to remove, including the reflection. There's also this power line, but I'll just leave that there because I'm going to show you a different photo with getting rid of the power lines using AI. So I'll just go to the Generative AI tool here and make sure it's selecting the Generative Eraser. And just like the Generative Crop, I'm just going to select Local Gen AI. Okay, and I'm just going to paint over these people, including the reflection. And I'm not expecting a really good job, honestly. So I'll just select Accept here. And let's see how it does. And look what it did. It built a house. That is amazing. Let me just accept this, hide this layer. And in a situation like this, the local generative AI tool is not that great. So the better thing to do is just go back to the perfect eraser and just erase these people away. I might have to do it a couple of times, but usually it's a little bit better than the let me actually turn this back on. Okay, so that doesn't look good. So I need to actually delete this layer. That looks better. And now I'll just use the perfect eraser and let's see what it does. So it looks a little bit better now. You can see it messed up the reflection a little bit, but the generative eraser AI tool, it's a hit or miss and depends on how complex the image is. And like I said, it's better to use the stability AI, but I'm not going to create a API key for it and pay for it. And yeah, so there's definitely improvements that are needed to the generative AI cropping and the eraser tool, or at least ON1 Photo Raw can include some free credits if that's possible, or even with the subscription plan. The automatic removal of power lines and dust spots, it's pretty good in ON1 Photo Raw 2025. This photo in front of me, I have some obvious power lines right here. They may not even be power lines, it could just be regular cables, but there are some power lines here. So I'm going to remove these power lines right in front of me. I'll go to the perfect eraser tool and just make sure I'm on perfect eraser, and then I'll select reduce power lines. It does take a few minutes to automatically process, so just pay attention to these power lines here as well as these power lines here. I'm not too sure, or the image or the processor is not even too sure if the power lines here should be removed. So you can see there's a little bit of a ambiguity. I can't even pronounce that word, but anyways, the power lines, the obvious power lines are gone, but these power lines here, some are gone and some are not. One thing I do want to point out is the before and after. If I select before here or the preview, you can't see an after. It doesn't automatically create a new layer. So if you do use that tool, I suggest creating a new layer, and then you may want to paint in or paint out like these power lines. And this Iceland photo here, let me go to the develop module. I'm using Lightroom words now. But anyways, there are some obvious dust spots or rain spots here, here, and it looks like there's one here. I'm not too sure. But anyways, let me go to the perfect eraser tool and just select on reduce dust. And it'll take a few seconds to process. So let me see if this one and this one goes away. And it's still working. Okay, so it looks like the one that was here is gone. The one that was here is gone. And there was one that was here that's gone. So that looks pretty good. Let me go to this hand tool, add some Brilliance AI just to make this image look a little bit good, and reduce the amount. And while I'm cleaning up these images and using AI or generative AI to clean up, the software of ON1 Photo Raw, it does need pretty decent GPU, or it does require dedicated GPU to process these generative AI retouching, just from my understanding and looking at the documentation. I'm just going to do a few basic adjustments to this photo I took of this flower in Colombia. I'm not too sure what type of flower it is, but anyways, I'm going to just add some contrast here, increase some structure, and improve the haze a little bit. And now I'm going to go to the effects tab. I'm going to click on add filter, and I'm going to click on edit color. So now I have this color wheel here, and I can target individual colors as well as select or feather the area around it to select a better range. So there's some presets here that I can use, but I'm just going to use the eyedropper tool here and then click on the yellow, and you can see the range that's selected right here. I can preview the mask or preview the color range. It's selecting some of this green in the background. So what I'm going to do is change this color wheel and remove the green so that it's only selecting yellow. And I'm going to select some more orange and as well as a little bit of the red. You do have to be careful with this color wheel. It is finicky. If I move it around, sometimes it messes up, but it looks like it's doing a pretty good job here. And now I'm just going to change the hue, put a little bit more orange to it slightly, increase the saturation, and increase the lightness. So it's a subtle change, So let's see the before and after. Before and after. So it's very subtle. So actually, let me change the hue a little bit more and increase the saturation so you can see the before and after. So with this color editor tool, it gives you the new color wheel here, and you can select a broader range of the color. And then you can also use the feather to change the range as well. And now we'll take a look at the color match filter. It's very similar to working with the ON1 Photo Raw presets or any type of presets for that matter here. This one, I'm just looking at this CM4 that I applied to it. Let's take a look at the before and after. But anyways, I'm going to reset this image here. I'm going to hide the presets and I'm going to go to the effects tab. I'm going to click on the add filter and I will add the match color filter. So the match color filter, it tries to replicate the color or the color grading of another image or a relative image. So here you can see there's a few sample images that ON1 Photo Raw provides in the 2025 edition. This is the Mona Lisa. And then we have a few different other images as well as some of the, this looks like a painting from the Renaissance Italian artist, but I'm not too sure. But most of the time you're going to want to use your own relevant or your own image to match a color. So for this image here, I already have a loaded image, which is the Ring of Power image that I have. You can load the file from here, from your desktop or from your local disk. But I have this Ring of Power from Lord of the Rings, and here's the photo, and here's the preset that I applied, or the match color that I applied. So let's take a look at the before, and here's the after. It is a little bit on the dark side, so let me just go to the develop module or the develop tab, and then click on Brilliance AI just to adjust it a little bit. And then I'll go to the tone and color, and I'll go to the highlights and actually increase the highlights a bit. That looks good, or it looks better. And let me see it without the match color. That's how it looks. And here it is with the match color. This photo I took of Lake Moraine in Canada during the wildfires, I believe in 2020, when there was wildfires about 100 or 1,000 kilometers away in the United States and within Canada as well. So you can see there's a lot of haze or smoke debris in this photo. So I'm going to try correcting this image, or at least trying to revive it. It won't be perfect, but it's something photographers do, and they do that usually with editing tools like ON1 Photo Raw or Photoshop or whatsoever. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to noise and sharpening. I'm going to make sure both is selected actually right here. This is actually one of ON1 Photo Raw's best AI tools, the noise and sharpening. So it's calculating here, so it looks like it's done. So this is the before and here's the after. So it did make a subtle improvement to the structure or the sharpness, as well as it looks like it reduced a little bit of noise. I should be zooming in actually. So let me zoom in, and you can see some of the noise has been reduced, but a little bit of detail has been actually removed. So we'll correct that while we do a little bit more adjustments. But anyways, I'm going to apply this for now. So the noise and sharpening will just take a few seconds to process and apply. And once that is done, which is done now, I'll go to Brilliance AI here. I'll select it, and it improved some parts of the image, but it messed up on the black tone or the black level here. If we go to the levels tool or the histogram, you can see the blacks are pushed all the way to the left. So I need to go to the tone and color and correct the blacks, push it back to the right just a little bit, or a lot actually. And then what I'll do is I'll decrease the shadows and increase the highlights to recover some more of that information I lost with Brilliance AI. Now I'll add structure. which should add a little bit more detail to the image that we lost during the noise reduction and sharpening AI tool that we used. And I'll try to improve the haze right here. I'll lower it. So let's see the before, and here's the after. Before and after Brilliance AI, so it looks good. But I still want to make some more corrections to the foreground and the mountains here. So some parts of this image are in focus, some parts are not. And when you have a situation like this, the best thing to do is try to use the new depth mask tool. So I'll go to the local tab here, click on add adjustment. And the depth mask is right here, this arrow pointing down. So I'll click on it. So the mask has been applied. I'll press the letter O to view it. So you can see it's selected most of the in detail area. Also depends on where the image is focused and how far certain objects are away from other objects in the image. So I'll turn off the mask. Let me reset this because it automatically goes to this -1 exposure. So let's see what we can do here to improve this. Let me see if I can increase the contrast slightly, add a little bit more structure, decrease the haze or improve the haze a little bit more. And I will increase the vibrance slightly and the saturation slightly just to improve this area right here. And let me take a look at the levels tool right here. It looks like the highlights are still pushed a lot to the right. And let me see if that corrects it. No, it doesn't correct it because the highlights are all up here and the mask isn't selecting it, which is fine. And by the way, if you want to inverse the mask, you can just click on this inverse button right here, which I won't do in this tutorial section. But let's just see how it looks with the depth mask before and after. Before and after. So I made a subtle adjustment to this area that's mostly in focus or that already had a lot of saturation into it. And the area around it, it was a very subtle change. Now if I turn the mask back on to view it by pressing the letter O, what I can do is I can paint or add more to the mask. So I'm going to press the right bracket symbol to increase the mask. The size is here, feather, and then I can just paint over this area if I want to select a little bit more of this area right here and here, and I'll turn off the mask. Now let's see the before and after. Before and after. So now you can see there's a little bit more impact here in this part of the lake, but I did mess up right here, which is fine. This is just to demonstrate the depth mask. Now we'll take a look at a few of the convenience features that ON1 Photo Raw 2025 added just to make the photography workflow more smooth. So one of them is the photo stacking. So you can see these photos on the top and these two are similar. So I can select this and then shift click this and then I can stack it into a group by right clicking with my mouse. Go here to stacks and group into a stack. So now you can see it's grouped into a stack. If I click on this number here, it'll expand it. If I click on it again, it'll compress it. And then I can right click on my mouse, go to stacks, and then I can unstack it if I want. I can also stack this photo with these photos. And it's just to better organize the clutter in your catalog, or in my case, in my browser. So I'll stack this as well. And there you go, it's stacked. We can also set a target album to organize photos faster. So right now we're taking a look at this 2025 album, which has these photos that I've been using for this video tutorial or review. If I click on this, my first album, it's empty. So what I can do is I can right click on it with my mouse and then set it as a target. And now you can see this plus sign that's on it. So it just means it's the target album now. Now, if I go to my browse tab here And let me see which photos I want to select. So let's say these photos right here up to right here. I'll shift click, and now I can press the keyboard shortcut B, the letter B as in Bravo, to add it to my target album. So if I go back to my catalogs tab, go to my first album, you can see the photos are in here now. I can also unset this as a target album, and then I'll have to manually pull these photos in to my first album by going here. Let's say go here, I go right click, and I can add to whatever album. So the set target album feature just allows you to organize photos a little bit faster. The Canvas dialog box is a subtle change to help you with your prints. So let's take a look at this photo here that I want to get started with editing and let's say printing on a specific sized paper. So I'll go to the file section here, go to new canvas, and then I can select one of these presets or paper sizes. So I'll just go with 11 by 14 inches, select landscape orientation, and I'll keep the background contents to white. I could also use the background as the selected photo and fit it in. Actually, that's what I'll do. I'll just fit it in right now. And I will accept the changes. So the background photo will be loaded. So you can see one thing with this photo is the borders are white, which is fine. But let's say, for example, I want to change the size of this photo and I want to center it. One thing I should do is shift and hold the image while I'm resizing so it keeps the same aspect ratio. One of the issues I have here is with centering the image. It doesn't, there's no option to center it, or at least I couldn't figure it out. There's a few options right here, as you can see. And these are just flipping the image horizontally or vertically or rotating it. And there's this fill canvas, which does the opposite thing. The other issue is, let me just undo that. Actually, I can't do it. So I have to resize it again. Okay. So another thing is if I want to center this image, but also keep the background here white, you can see it's transparent. There's no pixels here. So I need to create a new fill layer. So I just go here. Actually, click cancel. There's the fill layers right here, this paint bucket. I'll select here, make sure it's white, click on OK, and then I'll move the fill layer to the bottom. So you can see there's a few problems with this canvas tool and still needs a little bit more improvements, or at least I couldn't figure it out. I don't do a lot of printing, and when I do printing, I would prefer to do it in Lightroom's print module, which is far more advanced. So what do you guys think of these updates to ON1 Photo Raw? Personally, I think the generative AI tools could be improved, and they should include some free generative AI credits from the cloud. The one thing I do appreciate though is this new edit color tool. I think that's one of the coolest things that's been added. So do you guys think it's good or not, this update to ON1 Photo Raw 2025? Make sure to leave your comments in the bottom. And as always, live easy, sleep breezy, and stay lovely.